Hello everyone, welcome again to a weekly English shooting live stream. I hope you're all doing really well. How have you all been coping with the lockdown and everything that's going on? Has any of you managed to get some shooting in, be that in the garden, or maybe some of you lucky professional pest controllers out there? Am I getting some peaking on the mic? Let me know how I sound and how I look. Less comments on how I look, that's not so important. But as long as you can hear me, as long as it's crystal clear, that's all that matters. But yeah, topic obviously of the week, of the month, most likely of the year and of the decade. Of course, it is lockdown still. It was announced tonight that there's going to be a further 3 weeks, and I think I even heard rumours of a further 6 weeks after that. So it's going to eat up most of the summer, but if we can cross our fingers and hope that it's going to be over by the end of May, it does leave, I think, the majority of the summer and the majority of the matches to still go ahead. I was really sound peaking. Okay, you're saying it's peaking. I don't know why. No settings changed. Let's try that. Is that better? Am I still peaking? Is that better? Just let me know if it's still peaking. Let me know. Again, I haven't changed anything from last week. Just technology, right? Oh, instant abuse from Alex Florence. I always look fugly. Yeah, thank you very much. You're not such a good looker yourself, Alex. But yeah, we're going to be locked down. We're going to miss a lot of shooting. That's why I made the video last week or the week before about building a range at home. Even if it's just air rifles or BB guns, it's going to be important to keep on the trigger time, to keep your training good if you're going for competitions. But on the note of COVID-19 and the lockdown, I know there's been a lot of sort of uncertainty about exactly what we can and can't do. And again, I made a video, I think, trying my best to clarify it, which is basically don't go out, don't do anything unless you absolutely have to, unless it's absolutely necessary. But to add to that, there was an announcement from the head of Hampshire Firearms, someone that I know fairly well, Mr. Tony Hill, and I put that out on English Shooting, I think yesterday or the day before, and basically in no uncertain terms, like, you can be in serious trouble or get yourself into serious trouble if you are caught out shooting without a reason. And although it does specifically say about shooting, I'm sure that if any shooters or FAC or SGC holders are stopped out and about and they get fined, it's not going to look good. But basically, I think the most poignant sentence of Mr. Hill's announcements would be that holders should also be aware that if they do not heed this advice and are found in circumstances that suggest a danger to the public safety or the peace, this may result in consideration being given to the revocation of their certificates. Now, I have seen a few people sort of dispute Mr. Hill's interpretation and say that actually it goes against what I think it was the National Pest Controllers Association was saying about it. Again, guys, like, it's one of those situations where if you know it's necessary, if you know it's essential, then you know it's essential. If you're sat there going, oh, is it, isn't it, then just be sensible. I don't want anybody coming out of this without licenses. Trust me, it's not a good move. But yeah, so try and do dry drills at home. Try and I mean, you can get all sorts of training aids even for like clay pigeon shooting, that you can practice swinging the gun, practice loading and unloading dummy cartridges. Just do something to sort of keep your muscle memory, keep your your training up, and your familiarity with the guns. I know what it can be like. If you've got that gun at the back of the safe and you don't touch it for a few months, you get really rusty. So just keep everything going, keep familiar. And again, if you were able to build a range out in the garden, please do. I mean, Canch Pope, he's a prominent practical shooter. He's done loads of stuff with putting CDs up on his up on the wall, like loads of CDs, and just for practical shooting. I know this may not be necessarily for clay pigeon shooting, gallery shooting, long range shooting, or anything like that, but just going from one target to another, in the house. Obviously, make sure the gun's not loaded. Never use live ammunition in the house. That just always is asking for trouble. But yeah, just bringing up the gun. I mean, that's one thing you can do for clay pigeon shooting. Work on your mount. Make sure that your mount is consistent. That's something that's incredibly important. you know, so just bringing up the gun and making sure that you've got, you know, you get your cheek on it correctly, and you're getting, you know, a good picture of the barrels, or not. You don't want to be seeing barrels, but you know what I mean. There's loads of things you can be doing, and it might get boring, but if you keep on doing that dry drilling during this period, you're going to come out of it and still be very, very familiar with the guns, and hopefully very proficient still. So yeah, just keep up the skills and keep yourself entertained. Who here has cleaned their gun for the 10th time? I'm sure many of you have. Unfortunately, I don't have any guns to clean, which is good or bad, I don't know. But yeah, as always, guys, this is all about you guys. It's all about asking questions that, you know, you want to answer, you want to talk about, and any topics that you want to talk about. You know, just make sure you put them in the comment section below. Keep the conversation flowing. I do have a few points that I want to address and chat about with you guys, and I've seen that we've got Point Blank Simulator in the house. I'm definitely going to be talking about the Point Blank Simulator later on, and there's a video, and I'm not alone. I've got Nala, who's about to make a crash. She's obviously she wants to go out for the toilet or something, or catch a mouse. But yeah, I'll leave her to that. But yeah, just let me know what you guys want to talk about, what any questions. I did see a few before we started, so I'll get on with those now. But yeah, anything you want to talk about, just let me know. And please don't forget, hit that thumbs up button. It does really make a difference to the analytics and helps grow the channel, and share the channel as well. So Marco said, how's it going? Hope you're all coping with the lockdown. Yeah, I mean, you know, luckily, unluckily, whichever way you want to look at it, you know, being self-employed, if I'm not here, the business isn't running, it's essential for me to be here. I have limited it. You know, usually I'm here in the office sort of 7 days a week, but you know, we're limiting that to a bare minimum, and obviously while we're here practicing social distances and all the important stuff. But I have to say, in some ways it's been a little bit of a relief, because all of the like normal day-to-day things you've got to worry about have sort of been put on pause. Obviously I'd much rather everything be back to normal, of course, but yeah, I mean, the sun's shining, it's nice weather, you know, all things considered, it could be a lot worse. I don't know, maybe some of you guys that, you know, aren't going out, aren't popping to work, and maybe breaking up the monotony of being at home all the time are finding it harder. But yeah, hope you're all keeping safe and keeping well nonetheless. So we've got Josh Trower. What cabbies? I guess caddies. Oh, do you want to go out, Nala? Go in then. You can make it out from there. She'll sort herself out. What cabby? I guess you mean caddies. Can we have in the UK? Let me know. Do you mean like the quad loading caddies? So you know, let me know, just to clarify on that, and I'll happily, if it's about mag load caddies or shotgun quad loading caddies, I'll happily talk about those. Marco, just moved to Belfast, and I'm looking to start doing some long range shooting. Do the same gun laws apply than in the UK? So Belfast, that's Northern Ireland. Actually, you've picked the best place to move to within the UK. So it works very, very similar to, well, I think the processes in terms of getting your licenses and working with the police and all the hoops you've got to jump through are exactly the same in Northern Ireland as they are in on the mainland. Anyone from Northern Ireland, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. The only difference really is what you can own. In Northern Ireland you can own handguns, so that's a big plus. Apart from that, I believe you do just have to, you know, apply for your FAC, your SGC. You have to join a club and go through all of that process. Yeah, she's out the window. I've got my delayed screen. It still looks like Nala's behind me, but she's obviously gone now. But yeah, congratulations for picking Belfast. That's, you know, if you move to the mainland, you wouldn't be able to have handguns. Maybe you're not interested in handguns, but you know, it's always nice to have the option if you are. What's that? Someone's saying something about bearded. You look like a bearded tit. I mean, handsome dog. Well, I've been called worse. So yeah, technology is called owning a Mac. Yeah, Mac. If it was Windows, there's no way I'd be getting this stream live, Alex. Like, it's Mac or nothing, really. Oh yeah, evening Neil. Seen that Neil's from Rack and Load here. Yeah, if you didn't manage to catch Neil's live stream yesterday, oh, that was funny. Trust Neil. For those of you that don't know, and I'm sure Neil won't mind me bringing it up again, I'm going to wait for the £75 Mossberg comments to appear. Neil ended up doing a stream on the Rack and Load Facebook page yesterday, and unknowingly ended up streaming to his personal page, and after a few comments realised, and then switch back over to where he should have been. So yeah, a great start. You never let us down, Neil. It's always entertainment with you. Oh my god, there's some real Mac haters in here. Look, if you want to get into editing, like, it's a Mac, right? Would you rather that it was 10 times harder for me to edit videos on a Windows machine? You can't beat a Mac. You can't beat a Mac. It's just, they just work, all right? And I break Windows machines. I'm allergic to them. Sure. Jesus, you're just full of abuse tonight. It's the cabin fever, isn't it? It's getting a bit chilly. Wonderful day though. Absolutely stunning weather. Shame we can't be down in a pub garden or something. That's a shame, isn't it? Audi TT. I've only heard of Yukara and nothing new. All videos seem to be around 3 to 5 years old. Is that following on from something else? Have I missed something? Or do you want to talk about Yukara? For those of you that don't know, Yukara it basically came in under the Violent Crime Reduction Act, and it's basically what's required if you want to buy an imitation gun, so like an Action Air or Airsoft gun. If you don't have a Yukara or valid defense, I think as it's written, then you have to have the gun painted two-tone. As I've said before, it's because of Yukara that I ended up getting into shooting, so thank you very much, VCA, Violent Crime Reduction Act. I'm not, whatever, it's too late. I'm cooked from the sun. But yeah, I have seen some people saying, and some gun stores have said, that they will use UK PSA membership as a valid defence under the Violent Crime Reduction Act. And it's not just a blanket Yukara or nothing at all now. I mean, the funny thing about that law, and I'll talk about it because I didn't go through with it because it just does seem a bit shady. When I was trying to buy an airsoft gun, and it was when I was in London and started getting into shooting, and there was a customer stood on the counter, and he was like, "Okay, you don't have a Yukara, I do. I'll buy the gun from the shop, and then we can pop outside, and as a private individual I can sell it to you," which seems like absolutely absurd. It's like, what does it actually achieve? And also, if you buy a two-toned gun which has been painted, what's stopping you from just spray painting it black and making it look realistic again? It just, like, I talk about it all the time. I'm not necessarily against gun laws. I'm not against, like, the process of FACs and, having a bit of a barrier for just anybody being able to go out there and buy guns. But when the rules are just so easily circumvented and sort of just create a load of hassle for no reason, you just think, well, maybe that should be tweaked so that it can actually do something, perhaps. But yeah, it's if you want to know more about Yukara, I mean, I can see a number of people in here that are going to be far better suited to explain the differences, but anything you want to know, just ask. So that was, so you sort of asked it in two parts. You said, can you give me more information in regards to recent legislation for airsofting, please? It's not necessarily recent. As far as I'm aware, the whole Yukara and Violent VCRA Act, that's been around for many years. But yeah, basically, if you're not worried about it looking black and you don't mind half of it being a funky colour, just get it painted, and then you don't have to worry about Yukara. The Yukara thing is you have to go and complete 3 skirmishes with like a registered site, and that basically shows that you're not just thinking, oh, I'm just going to go and buy an imitation gun or an airsoft gun just on a whim. It shows that you've gone to skirmishes, that you are involved in the sport, and it shows your valid reason effectively. But yeah, I mean, Other than that, just have it painted. If you don't want to go and do 3 skirmishes, I'm sure if you're getting into it, you will do. So maybe you want to go and wait. Don't know. It's up to you. Or you can buy. I believe it's legally that you're legally able to. I've never done it, so I'm not in violation if it isn't. But I believe it is legal for you to go and buy as a private individual from another private individual an imitation airsoft gun. So if you have any friends and you don't have a Yukara, then maybe you can borrow theirs or buy some of their old ones to start off with. Carl Volt, thanks for joining again, Carl. Funny enough, you should ask, I actually have on my notes here Tiger King. I know it's not necessarily shooting related, although there is shooting in it, but it's just taken the world by storm, hasn't it? Who here has seen the Tiger King? And I've actually watched it twice now, because it's so insane. Like, every episode just gets more and more crazy. And for any gun nuts out there, just be prepared for everyone's gun handling in it. And I won't give the spoiler, and unfortunately someone did give a bit of a spoiler the other day to Connors because he hasn't seen it. There's a fairly, let's say, just intense moment. I think it's in the 4th or 5th, maybe 6th episode, involving a gun, and you just know as soon as they start talking about it, you know what's going to happen. But yeah, it's insane. It's like car crash TV at its absolute finest. But the reason I actually have it on my notes isn't just to talk about the Tiger King. It was more about the whole freedom of speech, and I used it as an example the other day in how things vary and are completely different, not just in gun laws, but in freedom of speech and I can't even say it, and our rights in the UK versus other countries, because there's a bit in Tiger King where he just quite obviously threatens someone and says, like, if I ever see them, I'm going to shoot them in the head. And the lawyer just looks up and says, freedom of speech. And I'm just sat there going, that there's just no way, absolutely no way at all anyone would ever get away with that in the UK. I mean, they basically say, yeah, you can, in America, you can say exactly what you want as long as nothing happens. It's freedom of speech. If you then act on it, then you can get into trouble. And certainly if something does happen and they can quote you previously, it's not gonna end well for you. But it was just, I don't know, it sort of made me think about what I went through 4 years ago. That initial video that sort of started it all off and was sort of the main issue for me, they were fine with. I don't think I've talked really in terms of timeline about it before, but I mean, I made that Paris attack video November 2015. They talked to me about it in January 2016, and my FEO was like, look, you've got an opinion. It might be a little bit controversial, it might be a little bit out there, but we don't have any issues with people having an opinions or having an opinion. And even when I informally spoke to the police about that video, so I had my FEO meeting, and I also talked to the police about it, and they were fine. After about 5 minutes of chatting with the guy, he was like, look, I get it, you've got some opinions, you're putting them out there. We don't want to stop people from having opinions. And then a few months later, I'm in court, and suddenly I'm a fanatic. So it is maybe a little bit odd how that sort of switched over. But anyway, moving on. But yeah, Tiger King, back onto that. Jesus, you got, if you haven't seen it, it's worth getting Netflix just to watch, honestly. Point blank simulator, cleaning guns, what's that? Yeah, it's not something that I've been known for in the past, I have to admit. I'm sure if I had a safe full of guns, that I would actually be cleaning them just out of boredom at the moment. But yeah, I mean, how many times can you actually clean a gun? I mean, maybe some of you are testing that out right now. But yeah, so I said I would be talking about also Point Blank Simulator. So we have, I don't know if you want me to reveal your name, but if you do, I happily do. But had a lovely gentleman, let's just say, from Point Blank Simulator send over a load of gear, and it's a full like indoor proper simulator used by certain individuals. Again, I can't remember exactly what I'm allowed to say or not say, so I'll err on the side of caution on that. But yeah, we've got it all set up. I'll be doing a video on it. We were meant to be doing it today, but we've had too much fun using it. I'll be filming, I think, tomorrow if I have a chance in between everything else that needs to be done here. But yeah, an absolute awesome system. So it's used for sort of self-defense and, you know, special forces training and military and police training, but it's also got an extensive IPSC and sort of 3-gun you know, built into it, so you can train for sports, but you can also train for self-defense. Obviously in the UK, unless you're police or military, that's not of huge interest, but it's a really good system. I'm giving you a little bit of a sneak peek of what the video is going to be like, but yeah, we've had loads and loads of fun with it, and again, it's sort of going to follow on from the building an indoor range, where obviously, you know, you're going to want to look at things to entertain yourself, and having this sort of laser system indoor range, it would be perfect. If you've got one right now, you're probably reaping the benefits of that. That's for certain. You can pretty much use any sort of action airsoft gun with it. So if you've already got some guns that you want to train with, then that's going to be sort of, you know, super easy. Just put the adapters in, and I believe it's cert pistols as well that you can buy and use with it. But yeah, you do really sort of zone in. Well, the previous times I've used laser systems have always been in like crowded shows, and you're always a little bit distracted. But you know, maybe it's just because it's tucked away and there's no one else about. You do get really into it. And in terms of, you know, getting your draw, it's all, well, it's rifle and pistol. I'm pretty sure you could get shotgun working with it, but you know, for handgun, especially in the UK where we don't get a lot of chances to train, it was going to really help with, you know, practicing your draw, getting on target, you know, time to first shot. Unfortunately, you know, with the cert pistols, you don't have recoil with it, and even if you use an action air gun, it's not going to simulate a 9mm in terms of recoil, or any, you know, major factor guns for that case. So it's going to be limiting in terms of how much it simulates, but for the basics, in terms of getting on target, getting your grip, getting your sight picture, I can see massive benefits from it. And this will all be in the video, but it's really not that expensive compared to the other systems that I've seen, and the quality of it is really good. So you've definitely impressed me. So oh, I'm allowed to say whatever I want. That's dangerous. You never give me that ticket. You know, I'll get myself into trouble. But yeah, so if I can say what I want, a guy called Paul, who's incredibly kind to lend us all of that kit for the week. But yeah, you'll get to see more. Unfortunately, it's not here, so I can't show you. Maybe, oh no, we did talk about perhaps doing like a simulator, a laser simulated live stream. So like actually, you know, doing some courses of fire on the stream, and you know, unfortunately we can't do that at the moment because social distancing and all that, but maybe in the future, if you fancy seeing Connors and I going head to head on a laser system, let me know. But you know, I guess one of the biggest accolades of the system is that it is used by special forces, so if it's good enough for them, well, it's got to be good enough for us. Surely, even purely, yeah. But yeah, keep the questions coming, guys. I'll try and get through anything that you want. Mac owners are as boring as production shooters. Really, Carl? I mean, I can always ban you if you wanna play it like that. Mac's just like, again, I know this would like going off topic here, but the majority of people, of course, use Windows, but the smart ones around us, you know, we've seen the light. Go for Mac. They just work. I've never seen a Windows machine outlast a Mac. I've had 3. This is going to be my 3rd, and they all like faultlessly for 4 or 5 years without, you know, basically every time I've sold a Mac or retired a Mac, it's still as good as the day that I got it, you know. And I don't want to be nursing a computer, and I find with Windows you've got to nurse them, you've got to look after them, and they're far too easy to break. So Tech Gaming 45 had a barbecue today. Yeah, that's something I've been wanting to do. Obviously, being stuck in the house, being stuck in the garden, just haven't had a chance yet. It'd be good to, you know, once this was all over, I think maybe having like an English shooting get together out on the playground here, if that gets opened up in time. So yeah, that would be good. But it's like summer's barbecue, especially when the weather is like this. I mean, if this could have happened like maybe 3 or 4 months ago, it wouldn't be such a pain, but we're having fantastic weather today. Well, during this period, aren't we? Point blank simulator. Are there any FPS limits or other rules for Action Air? CO2 allowed or just green gas? So I don't believe you're restricted in any way in terms of the gas for Action Air. And I don't believe you are limited on FPS, but I believe it's again, like I've only recently got into Action Air. I think it's limited by what the legal limit is within the UK, basically, as long as it's below that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the type of ammunition you're using is obviously restricted, but I've seen loads of people use different gases, and you know, and I've seen people tune their guns up to like ridiculous FPS, but obviously it has to stay under, I believe it's the 1 joule limit for Action Air or airsoft guns. So, oh yeah, so it's interesting to find out, Marco, whether you knew Belfast or Northern Ireland was allowing or allows handguns, or the ownership of handguns, or whether that's just a happy coincidence. Because if that's a happy coincidence, it's a bloody good one. Because if you'd moved to the UK, you haven't got a hope in hell's chance of being able to shoot handguns here, not regularly anyway. The occasional opportunity does present itself, but it's usually, you know, invite only. It's not something you can just decide you're going to go and do one day. Yeah, Audi TT, interested in airsoft IPSC shooting. That seems a great way of starting. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you. And I've said it. I made a couple of videos on Action Air on the channel, and you know, I say in every single one, you know, if you're maybe a little put off about the processes of getting an FAC or an SGC, or you know, joining a Home Office approved club and everything involved with that, you know, first of all, I'd say don't worry about it, because it's okay, it can be quite complicated. Just go and do it. But if you're not at, you know, maybe your age, maybe you're not in a position for whatever reason to go for an application, then Action Air, you know, 99% of what you see at an Action Air match is what you will see at any other live fire IPSC matches. It's pretty much the same rules. The only differences are targets, so they have slightly different targets. They still use standard IPSC targets, but they do have like special sort of smaller targets. Their poppers are obviously different, because you're not going to be able to knock down a steel with a BB. But in terms of the safety, you know, if you muzzle sweep someone with an Action Air gun, you're going home. The one funny thing which always makes me like, because you don't want to DQ yourself, and fortunately, you know, touch wood, I haven't DQ'd in a match, but at the end of an Action Air stage, obviously the way that an Action Air gun or an airsoft gun works is that it will load a BB into the chamber, but if you rack the slide, it won't actually eject it. So usually you unload and show clear. So with a normal handgun, you would rack the slide back, dump the round on the floor or on your hand or whatever, and then you can show it clear. But you can't do that with Action Air. So the one thing, and this like breaks, it's the one like exception with Action Air to everything else, is you have a pusher. So you actually have to put your hand in front of the barrel to be able to clear the round. Now, you know, obviously it's not needed with live fire guns, but you certainly wouldn't want to be doing that with live fire guns, not on a regular basis. It does happen where stuff gets stuck in the barrel. But yeah, apart from that, it's a fantastic way to get into it. You'll start learning about the IPSC rules, and getting down a shooting range. You'll also, you know, talk to other shooters, and whilst, you know, you probably want to expand and go on to live fire shooting in the end, there will be people down there that does, you know, live fire and action air shooting. So, you know, this is one of the biggest things that I say to people is, you know, there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and going down to a club or going down to a range, you can start talking to people and ask them the questions directly. That's why part of the reason I do this stream. It gives, you know, people an opportunity to ask any of those niggling questions you might have. But also, you go down a range, you go down to a club, there's going to be people there that are always going to be able to help you. And, you know, most of my discovering of shooting sports, so the areas, you know, everyone, you know, knows about clay shooting, everyone will know about, let's say, long distance target rifle, but all of the sort of smaller divisions like practical shooting, I only found out about going down the range and talking to people. So, you know, if I was very insular and, you know, I didn't go down to clubs and I didn't go out shooting with new people, sort of my view of shooting would be much more narrower. So you can learn a hell of a lot more from other shooters just by conversation, and it's sort of this double-edged sword. I see it. I get a load of messages of people saying that, you know, they're keen to join a club, they're keen to go out there and you know, start their journey into shooting and getting their FAC, and unfortunately their local club is full of thuds, they're full of, you know, the old boys, and they, you know, they're not welcoming. However, you know, and I'm not saying that's, you know, for all older shooters that's the case, but there is an element of it. The sort of flip side to it is that the older, or let's say the more experienced shooters out there, they have a wealth of knowledge. They've been through it all. They've, you know, renewed their FACs countless times. They've maybe applied and been through the application process 2 or 3 times over their lifetimes. You know, maybe joined several different clubs in several different counties up and down the country. So, you know, the more experienced shooters out there, you get chatting to them, because there's going to be a higher chance of them being able to answer your question than sort of anybody else. Unfortunately, if it is like an old boys club and they're very unwelcoming and they're not willing to talk, well, stuff them, join another club. You know, I really don't have time for shooters or clubs that aren't welcoming. You know, we're a sport that needs to be growing at a far greater rate than we are, and to have clubs out there that just don't seem to be interested in new members, well, they're a cancer. They're part of the reason that this sport is going to die, unfortunately. Point Blank Simulator seems mad. You need a defense for a black airsoft replica firearm, but only need to be over 18 for an air gun that is much more likely to injure. But the law is the law. Again, guys, I'm sure many of you have heard the story, but, you know, as we're sort of still on that theme, the way I got into shooting was because of the VCRA Act, and the fact that I couldn't go and buy a BB gun just off the shelf from a shop. I went to Red Wolf Armory. They told me I couldn't buy it, even though the customer at the counter said that he would, you know, buy it for me and sell it privately outside. But I just wasn't interested in that. And actually, the owner of the shop said, "Look, just go and buy air pistol. Go and buy an air pistol. They're more realistic. They're more powerful." And they're probably more, and you can go and buy them straight over the counter. So I'm like, tick, 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 that sounds good. Went to a gun shop, not an airsoft shop, but a live fire gun shop that also sold air guns. PAX, I believe it is, PAX in North London, if any of you guys know of it. Walked in, got myself the Umarex Beretta 92 FS air pistol, and yeah, not being able to shoot that in my room, ended up joining a club and then finding about FACs and SGCs, and that's really what started my journey. So yeah, I do think it's a bit crazy. You can go and buy, as you said, a much more powerful air pistol. And air pistols like the Webley Tempests, people use them for killing rats. Like there is an element of lethality to them. The sort of the worst thing I think that would ever happen with an airsoft gun is you might lose an eye, but in the wrong place, you shoot someone in the wrong place, or at a short distance with an air pistol or a full air rifle, that's going to do some damage. And yeah, it does seem nuts that something that especially the air pistol, something that is more realistic and more dangerous, you can just go in. Again, it sort of like makes me question, what are they trying to achieve? But anyway, as you say, the law's the law. We are here to abide by the laws. LDTT, two-tone looks ridiculous. Funny enough, two-tone doesn't look ridiculous if you're going to do action air. Like seriously, it will fit in really, really well, because people do really like vibrant color schemes. It's only for if you're doing skirmishing. Obviously, if you're like trying to be sort of incognito in the bush, and you've got incognito in the bush, that sounds bad. And you've got this like fluorescent yellow gun like sort of sticking out, people are going to see you. But yeah, for action air, it really doesn't make a difference. So yeah, skirmishing, it's going to be worth going and getting a UCARA. For action air, if the gun shop will allow you to use a UK PSA membership as valid defence, then you don't have to worry about the two-tone. If not, don't worry about two-tone for action air, really. Like, there are going to be far more ridiculous guns on the circuit that you're going to see than the two-toned one that you're going to have. Major Jim, hi Callum, what action air pistol do you recommend? Unfortunately, like I have the gun, like literally I can see it from here, that I would recommend to everyone. Unfortunately, obviously being on YouTube, I cannot handle any guns. Let's see, is there a way that I could do it? Nah, I'm not going to risk it, because I'll get the stream pulled, and that would be bad. But yeah, so the one, despite me not using it, go and get a high capper. So it is I'm sure Connor's will be about any minute now, and he can give you, I think he did this for me last week or the week before, where he gave everything. It's a high, I can't remember, I want to say gram power high capper. It's not gram power. No, it's lost. I've lost it. Anyway, high capper. Look for high capper. It's a 2011 style, and pretty much all the top shooters use it. It's a really reliable gun, really accurate gun, and you can upgrade it. Because I'm a weirdo, I actually use a Glock. So it's based, I think, on the WE Glocks, but it's not. Again, it was Connors and Alex that bought it for me. So I'm not so hot on the specs and the make and the model. I did do a video. It was about, like, the thumbnail is of the Glock, so you can go and go and watch that video. I think it was talking about shooting Christmas presents, because I got the Glock for a present for Christmas, and I go and actually talk about the Amazon links, because the Glock you can actually buy off of Amazon. I mean, that's odd. Like, actually, just thinking about it, we're talking about UCARA, we're talking about having to get things painted two-tone, but if you go on Amazon now and type in, like, airsoft Glock, you can go and buy, I don't think you can buy a complete gun, but you can buy a functional slide and a functional frame, clipping together, and you're good to go. And that's exactly what I did. That's very odd, like, how Amazon get away with that. I guess they're selling it as component parts, which you would be allowed to sell non-two-tone without a UCARA, and then I guess, once you're in possession of the component parts, there's nothing against the law for somebody making an imitation firearm for their own use. I guess I'm going out on a bit of a stretch there. I don't know if that's wholly true, but I think that's generally the gist of it. Harrison, so as an FAC holder, you can't buy an airsoft without this UCARA? Nope. it's nuts. Like that's probably the craziest thing about it. Somebody that has, you know, provided 2 references, has been vetted by their doctor, has had an interview by the police, has been, you know, vetted on every sort of watch list that's out there, you know, and can go and buy live fire guns. You can't go and buy an action air gun. You can't go and buy an airsoft gun. Yeah, you still need a UCARA. Again, guys, some gun shops will now accept UK PSA membership as a valid defence. So, but it'll be worth phoning them beforehand. And if you have any issues, then maybe it's worth dropping the UK PSA an email, and they might be able to sort of help grease the wheels in that circumstance. Because it's sort of, I think it's a weird one. I can't remember specifically how the VCRA Act is written, but I'm pretty sure in the actual Act it just says valid defence, but in the guidance it only states a UCARA permit, certificate, card, whatever, as valid defence. So it's sort of one of these, like, technically nowhere it says like anything else can be a valid defence, but again, in law it doesn't say it can't, nothing else can't be a valid defence, if you get what I'm saying on it. But yeah, just join the UK PSA, phone your gun shop, see if they will accept it. Carol did it. Yes, she did. She killed her husband and fed him to the tigers. Like, there's that bit, isn't there, where she you know, like a couple episodes after, you know, exploring the Carol Baskin thing, you know, she sort of sits there and goes, yeah, you know, you wouldn't put perfume on someone's shoes, you would cover them in like sesame oil or whatever it is. And it's like, you can tell she's just like, as she's saying it, she's going, oh shit, I've just told them exactly what I did to my husband. But yeah, exactly, fucking Carol Baskin. Armour Works, there we go. Thank you, Florence, filling in where Connor's usually fills in. Yeah, it's an Armour Works high capper, and he has the split slide. So basically, you know, obviously instead of moving the whole slide, which takes a lot of energy, and energy is important when you're using gas because you don't want to use too much, only half of the slide moves. Again, if I was on Facebook, I could go and grab it and show you guys. Unfortunately, I can't, because thank you, YouTube. But yeah, so, and the Glock, it's a hex. It's 2 different ones, but the frame is hex. So if you type in like hex Glock airsoft on Amazon, you should be able to find it. But yeah, keep the questions and conversation coming, guys. Anything you want to chat about, anything you want to talk about, just let me know. So James Minshaw, if you apply for a Section 1 shotgun, do you have to specify box fed or tube, or do you have to get a slot for, and do you have to get a slot for slugs? So it does depend on where you are in the country. I have seen some counties specify the action of some guns, and some counties are, let's just say, very anti-Section 1 shotguns, and they will try and make it as difficult as possible. However, it's not standard procedure. I remember when I got a slot for my Section 1 shotgun and ended up filling it with the 1301, it just said shotgun. And, you know, just like with the rifles, they very, very rarely specify exactly what action you want to get. So you get a slot for a 2.2 long rifle on your firearm certificate. You can go out and buy any gun that's legal to own under a Section 1 certificate, any gun that is chambered in 2.2 long rifle. And I have heard of circumstances where people have, or firearms licensing have just specified .22, and of course there are loads of .22 caliber you know, rifles, or, you know, different variations of .22 calibers out there. So, you know, technically, if you only have, say, .22, you can go and get, you know, you can go and get your long rifle or 2.2 WMR or whatever. So yeah, usually they don't tie it down. And to be honest, I would push back if I would just put Section 1 shotgun, and I wouldn't specify, even if you're like 100% certain what you're going to go for. Don't lock yourself down, because things can change. So I would say to them, like, look, I'm thinking of a box fed, but I still haven't, you know, made my mind up, you know, which very well may be the case. Or look, I'm set on a box fed right now, but you know, things might change. It might be another month or two until, you know, my licenses hit the doormat, and I might have changed my mind by that point. So always leave your options open. And in terms of slug, yes, you will need a slot for slug ammunition on your FAC as well. It's section 1 ammunition. You cannot buy it with an SGC, a shotgun certificate. You know, again, that's sort of a funny area, shotgun ammunition, because, you know, buckshot and birdshot are section 2, so you require a shotgun certificate to be able to purchase them, but you don't. And I mean actually, like physically, you know, a transaction you need an SGC for, but to own them you don't need a shotgun certificate. So, you know, it helps me out, you know, shooting at the playground here, or, you know, doing any sort of filming with section 2 guns or shotguns, that, you know, Alex can give me shotgun cartridges. It's completely above you know, above board. And funny enough, the unfortunate day that the police came and actually took my firearms from the safe, I had a load of shotgun cartridges on top of the on top of the safe. Now, just a caveat, because slug ammunition is section 1, it has to go in a safe. You cannot leave it rolling about or unsecured. But section 2 ammunition you can just leave on top of a safe, or on the floor under your desk or whatever. And one of the police officers actually said, well, hang on a minute, we've taken all of this, why aren't you taking that ammunition? And luckily one of the guys there actually knew what he was talking about and said, well, that's section 2, he's lawfully allowed to possess that ammunition without a license. I still have some of those boxes, but yeah, so slug ammunition section 1, you need a slot for it. And if you're thinking about practical shooting, I would go for at least a minimum of 100 slug rounds. And again, I've had a bit of pushback, you know, when I went through my first variation with my FAC, and I put section 1 shotguns on there and slug on there, I put for 100 rounds, and my FEO at the time said, no, you don't need 100 rounds. And I'm like, hang on a minute, how do you know what I need? Do you shoot IPSC or 3-gun or practical? Well, no. Have you ever been to a match? No. So how do you know what I need? You know, have you ever trained for you know, practical shotgun? You know, how can you say I'm telling you I have a requirement for it, it's a valid reason, and I'm saying that I need 100 because of the quantity that I shoot? And then it started being, it was a conversation, and this is what I say to a lot of people as well. You know, never be rude to them. Obviously be polite, be courteous, but don't be scared to ask questions, and don't be scared not necessarily to challenge them, but to you know, if you're thinking, well, no, I've got a good reason and I really need that, don't be scared to say, well, hang on a minute, why are you, if they say no about something, talk about it. You know, it is a very, it's almost like a negotiation in some ways. And, you know, we went up to my safes and he was concerned that I didn't have enough space, and I said, look, I was told, you know, and I'd had this conversation the first time that on my initial application, where they said, you know, we're going to limit you to this, and I think it was 7 or 8 guns, and I was like, but I know I can fit more in there. No, you're only being limited to 7. And then during the variation, he was like, you're not going to get them all in there. And I said, look, I disagree. You know, it was because I have Bratton sound safes, and they usually say, like, I think one's a like 7 to 9 gun safe and one's a 3 to 5 gun safe, and they just took all of the low numbers and said, well, you can fit 10, so the maximum is 10, and I think I was applying for 14, and I was like, well, if you take the upper limits of them, that's actually 14, and regardless, I know I can get more guns in here than the capacity of the stated capacity of the safes, because when you get things like, you know, underlevers that don't have scopes, they are incredibly sort of compact guns, and they tuck in, you know, quite nicely. Also, long barrel pistols, you know, that you can hang from the door, they don't take up a huge amount of space. So, you know, things like that, that was a conversation that he was like, no, I'm going to limit what you can have, and especially the slug, because slug takes up a lot of space. And I said, no, I am confident I can securely store all of everything that I'm asking for. And he was like, okay, fair enough. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility to make sure that everything is securely stored. And if you're the one that leaves a gun out or leaves ammunition out one night and it goes missing, you're the one that's going to have to be answered. You know, you're going to have to answer for it. And I said, fine, I'm good with that. At the end of the day, you're trusting me with a firearm certificate, you know, entrusting me to make sure that I'm securely storing them. You know, that's part and parcel of giving me the certificate. If you don't trust me to do that, you shouldn't be giving me the certificate. So, you know, they do like to push back, you know, and in a way, I don't think it's, you know, some people might sit there and go, oh, they're just trying to limit the amount of guns out there. There might be a bit about that, but also I think it also tests how valid your reasoning and request is, because if you go, oh, I'm going to ask for 10 2.2s, and they come back and go, no, we're going to give you 2, and you go, oh, okay, then they know you were trying it on. Whereas, you know, if you ask for 10 2.2s and you can sit there and go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm doing this discipline, I need this one set up like that, and I need that one set up like that, you know, they're going to go, okay, actually, my bad, you've demonstrated to me that you have good reason. So, you know, never be scared to get into a conversation with them. Just make sure that you're polite and courteous, and, you know, just have a good chat with them. They, at the end of the day, FEOs are technically there as much to help you as they are to sort of help the police, if you see what I'm saying. So it's a very fluid relationship you can have with your FEO. But yeah, I hope that was probably a long-winded answer, but yeah, I hope that answers your question, James. This again, sorry guys, I need to catch up with your questions, but keep them coming in. And as always, I'm going to give you a little bit of a reminder. Please hit that thumbs up button. It really does help the channel. And, you know, if you're sat here watching this video, why haven't you hit the like button? Maybe you don't like what I'm saying. Wouldn't be the first time, but, you know, hit that like button and help out the channel. Paul G, why did you lose your FAC? Was that directed to me or somebody else? Because you're talking about Northern Ireland. If you lost it where you're legally allowed to shoot a pistol over in Northern Ireland last year. I think you're getting a bit confused there. So I think you're surmising that I ended up losing my FAC. I'm really confused, because you lost it where you legally allowed to shoot a pistol over. So I don't know specifically what you're asking there, but in terms of shooting over in Northern Ireland, completely legal for non-FAC holders. That's why I went and did it. They are a club. They are a club within the UK, and they legally own guns under their club certificate, which, as a visiting member of another Home Office approved club, you can go and shoot legally. Just so happens to be handguns are legal in that area. So, you know, there was no issues at all with NHTSA last year. You know, and I highly recommend anybody that wants to you know, get into handgun shooting and they're based on the mainland or England, Scotland or Wales, and they want to go over and try it out. NHTSA is a fantastic facility to go and start pistol shooting, and it's not too expensive. You know, you're still probably talking all in all sort of £200 to £300 for a weekend, but that's including flights, vehicle rental, accommodation, range fees, ammunition. It is the cheapest way, you know, unless you're military in the UK, to go and shoot handguns. So yeah, there was no issues with that, but in terms of losing my FAC, it was, well, 4 years ago. It was March 2016. I will at some point go into a lot more detail than I ever have. At the moment, you know, I'm sure many of you are aware, I had agreed with Hampshire Firearms Licensing Department that I would reapply on the 1st of May. Unfortunately, due to the lovely COVID-19 virus, that's going to be put on hold. But, you know, I'm always a bit dubious about getting into a discussion about what happened. It's actually completely for the opposite reason that you would think. You know, a lot of people thought that I sort of had something to hide with it, and it wasn't. I was always told by BASC and my legal aides, you know, solicitor, barrister, to sort of keep it on the down low, and I don't think necessarily getting into the depths and darks of what happened on a live stream is really, you know, I could end up saying a few things that could come back to bite me, let's just say. But I did make a video of it before I shut down the channel, and I go into a bit of detail on that. But it was an accumulative effect. So I made a video talking about self-defense with handguns out in Paris. That was initially flagged in January, that I was told was okay and that I could continue talking about those topics. Then unfortunately, the end of March 2016, it was actually Easter weekend, timing, right, that I had a false allegation of assault made against me. I was arrested, spent a night in the cells, and was let go with no further action. They understood the, you know, and that's sort of the depths of things that I don't want to get into live, because it is of a personal nature, not just for myself but for other people that I do care about. So you know, that they knew what had gone on. They knew that it was nothing, you know, necessarily of my fault, although I certainly could have handled the situation a lot better. And they said, you know, you're being let go with no further actions. However, we want you to voluntarily surrender your licenses for the purpose of review. And I had planned to be filming up in Bisley that week, and I said, like, look, if there's no issue here, if you're letting me go, you're not charging me with anything, then can I just talk to Hampshire Firearms Licensing and try and get this resolved today so that I don't have to surrender all my guns? And I never actually answered that question. I never said, no, I'm not voluntarily surrendering them, and I never said, yes, I am voluntarily surrendering them. I asked if I could speak to Hampshire Firearms Licensing. They took that as a refusal, so that they issued a revocation of the licenses. So the accumulative effect during my appeal was the video, which, again, previously I'd been told was okay. It was the allegation of assault, even though I was never charged with it and was let go with no further action. And also they said that I was, I can't remember the exact wording, but they said basically the refusal to cooperate. And I said, oh, hang on a minute. I ended up going to my house and helping the police officers carry my guns out to their car. Like, I don't really think you could be sort of any more helpful rather than refusing. But anyway, they were like, you know too much about the firearms law. You knew what you should have done. You should have voluntarily surrendered them. And yes, in hindsight, I should have. I probably wouldn't. Well, I might not have lost them. But those are the three main reasons. But during the appeal, it was all focused on the video. You know, my extremist views, my fanatical views on non-sporting use for firearms and things like that. But anyway, I'm literally like 2 weeks away from the day that I've allowed to reapply. I've agreed to reapply. So I'll swiftly move on from that topic before I get into hot water. But yeah, it's been it's over 4 years now, and probably by the time that I'm going to have to put my application, it could probably be another month or two until they actually open up the applications again, and then it's probably going to take, I'm reckoning, well, Hampshire have been good recently, so it could be 2 or 3 months after that they send it. So it's going to be another 6 months. So it's going to be about 4.5 years in total without a license. But in a way, it's been agonizingly slow. In a way, it seemed to have gone scarily fast. And I think what's happened over those 4 years, Gunrun TV for one of them, working with Magload now, so lots of good stuff. And funny enough, my relationship with Alex, who runs Blue Field Sports, again, if you're after any guns or ammunition or accessories, get in contact with Blue Field Sports. But I think what sort of happened with myself and Blue Field Sports, and then Gunrun TV, and then potentially even Magload, I think I could probably say it wouldn't have happened in the way it did, or certainly as quickly as it did, if I had an FAC. So that's sort of my silver lining, is I'm working full-time in the gun trade. Would that have happened if I hadn't have gone through all of that? So anyway, blabbering on. But yeah, I will, I'm sure I will end up having a meeting with Hampshire Fire, well, certainly my FEO, but if I have the opportunity to sit down again with Tony Hill, I'm going to sit down and sort of say, look, I want to clarify a lot of things. So I'm a bit wary of what potentially could be seen to be bad by Hampshire Firearms. So, you know, once I've sort of clarified what they're happy with me discussing without jeopardizing applications and stuff, I will go into detail about what happened. But as I said on a live stream, probably there's a lot more to it. Let's just say that, and I'm just not comfortable going into it at the moment. Anyway, more questions? Anything positive? You know, like apart from constantly reminding me I don't have FACs. Although I do that myself, don't I? But yeah, I find the firearm situation there alarming. Here, all the Democratic Party candidates want to do the same thing. I'm guessing you're from America, Gabriel. Certainly does sound like it. Yeah, a lot of the reaction to our firearms laws from Americans is always quite humorous. That's that's certainly for certain. They yeah, shock. I think shock. They're genuinely like shocked. Well, some are like genuinely shocked of how it is, but also some are like genuinely shocked about what we can actually own. They're like, I didn't realize you could do anything in the UK with a gun. You're like, yeah. Sam Clowes. If I wanted a 1522 and a bolt 22, would I need to specify that on my first FAC application? So basically, if you want two guns, basically for every gun that you want to apply for on your FAC application, you need to have a slot for. So it's not a case of, you know, they give you 2.2 and then you can just go out and buy any 2.2 or any number of 2.2s. You have to be able to sit there and justify every single gun that you want, and then they will give you a sort of a unique slot for every single gun that you want. So you will need a slot for a 2.2, well, you need for a bolt, for a 1522 and a bolt 2.2, you will need two two 2.2 long rifle slots if it's 2.2 long rifle you want to go for with the bolt 2.2. 2.2 sounding weird now, but yeah, basically you need a slot for every firearm. Keep the questions coming, guys. Oh, I've seen Connors has joined us. Hi Connors, thanks for joining. I'm sure the abuse will follow shortly. Yeah, and Connors has clarified that you know, basically I'm not a prohibited person, which is sort of like the craziest thing, because they've signed off that I'm an official danger to the public, but I'm not prohibited. And as Connors has said, you know, there's a thing called Section 21 that basically anyone that joins a club or goes shooting has to either sign or basically verify they're not prohibited under Section 21, and that's usually a criminal record or prison time. There's certain minimums. It's like you can go to prison for like a certain amount of time and not be prohibited under Section 21, but basically if you fall under the trap of Section 21, you're not lawfully allowed to go and shoot. I'm not a prohibited person. I don't have a criminal record, and under the club exemption, any full member or any member of a Home Office approved club can share club guns, and basically if a club goes collectively to another club's range and effectively turns it into that sort of visiting club's club day, then you can shoot any gun under there. Another interesting, you know, point on that is, as a club member, and say you've got a non-FAC holder and an FAC holder and they have loads of personal guns, under the club exemption you can try out people's personal guns under their FAC. So that's why I say joining a club, it's not just the wealth of information, it's not just the justification and being able to go and apply for an FAC, but you get to go and try so many guns, because, you know, especially like clubs like Kentucky Firearms Club, you'll have people turn up to the range with like 5 guns each. And, you know, you end up having 20 members with 5 guns each. Next thing you know, you've got this variety of 100 guns, you know, and you know, I say it like you can just go up and pick up someone's gun and start shooting with it. Obviously, you have to ask if they're okay with it. But usually at club days, people are more than happy for people to try each other's guns out. You know, it's sort of like, yeah, just go for it. You know, if someone has a particularly nice gun, they want to share it. It's something that I found that's, you know, very sort of camaraderie within the shooting community, certainly in the US. And certainly if you're a Brit going over to the US, as soon as you start talking with a British accent or an English accent, whatever you want, on an American gun range, you won't be able to move for the amount of people offering you guns left, right, and centre. They genuinely feel sorry for us, and they should, because we have it really, really bad. But you know, people will guns will appear from left, right, and centre if you go to an American gun range with a British accent. But it's still very similar in the UK. You know, if you're a club member, other club members will be more than happy to let you share their guns. You know, that's my experience anyway of it. So Travis Card, can you use a 2.2 long barrel pistol for pest control? Technically, I mean, the thing is about an LBP is there's technically no legal definition of an LBP. So an LBP is sort of by definition a rifle. So, you know, you might, it depends. I mean, this is where you can get into a little bit of a grey area with the way that the application process works. Is you say to them you want a 2.2 long barrel pistol. Oh no, it would have to be, so you would have to have permission to be able to use that gun for hunting. But let's just say oh no, because it's a separate slot. No, you generally would have to be just completely straight with it. But basically what I'm thinking of is, let's just say you know, you say to your FEO, I want to go and get a bolt action 2.2 rifle. I've got a slot here for a 2.2 rifle, and I'm going to use it for hunting as well. They will give you a slot for a 2.2, and it will say, you know, you can use that gun for hunting and for sport shooting if you're, you know, a member of a club, or zeroing for hunting as well. Once you have that 2.2 slot, there is technically nothing stopping you from completely changing your mind what gun you're going to go for. So you could decide, actually, you know, a bolt action 2.2 doesn't completely fulfill my needs. Actually, a Smith & Wesson 1522, a semi-automatic AR-15 style gun, fulfills all of my needs much better. Now, it might be frowned upon, and I certainly wouldn't at all recommend doing it to sort of dupe your FEO or the firearms licensing department. Again, that will not end well. If you've gone, oh yeah, these are all going to be bolt guns for gallery shooting or 2.2 target rifle shooting, and then they come back 6 months later, do an inspection, and you've got just a cabinet full of AR-15s, they're going to be a bit like, yeah, we're going to take those. But yeah, there is some flexibility, and this is what I was saying earlier with the Section 1 shotguns. You know, don't nail yourself down, because you may change. You know, you might at this very moment think you want like a 2.2 bolt action gun. In 6 months time, that actually might change to a semi-auto. And I know there's plenty of people out there that have like AR style rifles for hunting, and technically there wouldn't be anything wrong with using a long barrel pistol, but I believe the only justification usually is for sport shooting. So it's unlikely that they would then give you the permission to be able to go and use it for pest control. And I think trying to justify to an FEO using a long barrel pistol, it just doesn't fit, and they're probably going to be like, well, this is a bit weird. So technically, yes, you can. Getting one on your license for it, on another hand, is probably is a completely other kettle of fish. Peter Skelton, referring your blank firing shotgun video, if you restrict the barrel diameter with a special fabricated choke, it will work. Just as they do with the pistols in the movie. Yeah, thanks, Peter. I've had loads of people you know, talk about that video and sort of give tips like that. I do want to clarify, if you guys haven't seen it, there was basically for Gunroom TV and for English Shooting, there is a few requirements in the future for us to have. Actually, I do have some. Well, that's a live one. So here we go. I've got blanks on it. So these are that is empty, yeah. So the only way you can really notice, where you can actually see where we've been, you know, that's not a particularly good one. But basically, we needed to turn some Alpha Elite into some blank cartridges, and that's sort of aesthetic reasons and also sort of legal reasons. I explain it all in the video, so if you want to learn more about it, go and go and watch it. But a couple of things I want to clarify, because a few people were like, oh, what an idiot, like, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? So first of all, number one thing was, why are you why have you made it from live ammunition? Why didn't you just load some yourself or go and buy some blank cartridges? It's because we specifically needed Alpha Elite, and we needed the cartridge to look like an Alpha Elite cartridge, but I'm not going to be able to get that from Ely anytime soon. And the quickest and easiest and cheapest way was to convert some live ammunition into blank ammunition. And then also, obviously, the number one that people just thought I was being absolutely stupid was trying to get the gun to cycle with this ammunition, because it's not been modified. There's only been stuff taken away from it. Again, I'm not going to go into the processes because YouTube's funny. There was nothing added, and a lot of people say that you need to add more powder and you need to do this and you need to do that. We never intended them to cycle the gun. And I think a lot of people miss that. I thought I did explain that in the video. It's purely an aesthetic thing. They're basically props. They're not there to cycle the gun. They're not there to look like live ammunition actually functioning the gun. It was purely to just look on its own as blank ammunition. So the video for myself that I needed that for was loading Section 1 shotguns, and again, I explain it all in the video, but it's because it's a grey area whether, and this is like, I know we've talked a lot about shotguns tonight already and sort of Section 2 versus Section 1, but this is Section 2 ammunition, so I can legally own this. I can't buy it, but I can be given it, I can store it, I can possess it, and I can own it. So Section 2 shotgun ammunition. Now, with the filming exemption, which is what I use to be able to handle the firearms, it doesn't cover ammunition, but then that's technically Section 1 ammunition. So with the filming exemption, you can use any gun, and you can shoot blanks out of it, but you're not allowed to shoot Section 1 ammunition out of it. But where this gets really funny is with shotguns, because obviously it's ammunition that I can lawfully possess, and then I can lawfully possess the gun under the filming exemption. And because it's Section 2, technically you could shoot it, but it's like incredibly grey, and that's just not an area of the law that I want to be operating in at the moment. So to demonstrate loading, it's basically, there's a video coming out of talking about the differences between dual and quad loading. I know it sounds a bit simple, but there's many people that are new to practical shooting that might not know the difference, and I demonstrate it. Well, for me to demonstrate with cartridges in a Section 1 gun, okay, I could have used dummies, but again, various reasons that I wanted to use Alpha Elite. But then also we have this other requirement for Gunroom TV, which I'm not able to talk about at the moment, which again requires some blanks of specifically Ely Alpha Elite. So I just thought, for my video, I'll use the blanks, and then it's all lawful, it's above board, and I don't have to use cartridges with dummy all down the side of them. It just looks better. But yeah, that will be coming out soon. I actually got a load of videos. There's again one of the perks of being stuck indoors all day is I've been incredibly productive. So I've got some, I think there are 4 videos like scheduled set to go on the channel, which is like unheard of for me. I usually like upload the day before, or maybe even the hour before I want to actually upload the videos. Loads of stuff on Gunroom TV on the moment is well scheduled. I think we have pretty much 2 videos scheduled on Gunroom TV per week up until the end of May, and there's only ever more videos coming. So if you're bored for content, check out Gunroom TV, check out EnglishShooting, obviously, the channel. I'm sure you already have if you're here, obviously. But anyway, I digress. Again, keep the questions coming and the conversation flowing. Now, sorry for going quiet. I can't read and talk at the same time. I can barely just talk, never mind read and talk. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. I missed the NHS clap, didn't I? Sorry, a bit late. I really need to like switch. Maybe I should like move this to Friday stream because it happens every single week. But yeah, apologies, NHS workers. You know, doing a fantastic job, and I of course applaud you. But yeah, just catching up on your questions and your comments, guys. Yeah, that's an interesting point on slots. Point blank simulator. For any moderators you want, a singular moderator is considered a firearm, which gets really funny when you talk about the statistics of firearms being lost, which I've done a lot of research in in the past. But yeah, yeah, if you need a moderator, it needs to be on your certificate to use on an FAC gun. There was a statement years ago where the police basically looked up and said that, you know, firearms owners were losing so many guns, and actually when you boiled down into the bare bones statistics of it all, it was like 15 or 20% of all lost firearms were actually moderators. And I'm like, okay, it's still not good that they're being lost, but you know, they painted it as, look at all these guns, and you're like, well, actually those were antique, those were component parts, that was, you know, just those were moderators, and you know, those were obsolete caliber or whatever. And you're like, actually when you boiled it down, the numbers were like a fraction of what they were, you know, the headline figures, let's just say. Roland Dodo, look at the Italian firearms laws, they are a lot more lax than the UK for sure. Stringent testing, then afterwards what you can own is liberal. Only 3 handgun limit. I'd take a 3 handgun limit. I'd fill it instantly, but I would take that any day of the week. Yeah, I've had the privilege of meeting a lot of the sort of IPSC Italian teams, and it's quite obvious, obviously, with them having handguns out there and their own handguns and rifles and stuff like that. So I always assumed that it was better here, but the fact that you can just own anything after you've been tested, that's for me what I would like the FAC, you know, if there were to be any major changes, that's what I would like it to be. So like the FAC is like our shotgun certificate. You know, once you've gone through all that testing, like in my mind, does it matter if you have 5 guns or if you have 50 guns? Obviously there's the storage and all that, but you know, are you more dangerous with a 308 than you are a 223, or you know, are you more dangerous with a long barrel pistol or a long barrel revolver? It's like, if you're fit enough to own one, then surely you should be fit enough to own all of them. You know, I'm sure, you know, that's maybe a completely liberal way of doing it, but you know, I'm sure there's a halfway house sort of in between that would see an improvement, because you know, variations and stuff like that take a huge amount of time and resource for our firearms licensing. And could you imagine if they were to remove variations, be that, you know, like ticket variations or 1-for-1s, how much time and resource that would free up for the firearm licensing department? So I don't know, that's just my thoughts on things that might be able to be improved. I remember you running off with my Delisle for a hot minute and a box of ammo. I didn't run off with it, you were with me. You were the one encouraging me, shooting it without a rear sight. Connors is working on that, by the way. It will be ready, and we will do a video of it, Dan. What about ammo restrictions on FAC? Say you can buy 500 308 and you reload, technically you can make another 500. So what's the deal there? You can only buy 500 at a time, or you can hold more than 500 at a time. So the way that the limits work now, it was different when I first applied, but you are given a number, and that is the, you know, so say it's 500 308, that is the number of complete rounds that you're allowed to have in your possession. So say you have 200 rounds at home, you could only go out and buy 300 rounds legally. Now, there's technically nothing stopping you when you go to the gun shop and buying your full 500 rounds, but then in total you're in possession of 700. If you happen to get stopped, or you have a sort of a spot check or whatever, if you're found to be having more than your allowance, you will lose your FAC. sort of reloading, again, it's something that I do want to learn a lot more about and get into, but it's basically having assembled round. I believe this is the case, that you can actually have unlimited amounts of component parts, and there's a very definitive sort of definition of what a complete round is, and I'm not sure it's entirely like a complete round. It's like putting the primer in the brass or something like that. But basically, you can own component parts as much as you want, but you're only allowed to have up to your limit in actual, I would say, fireable, let's just say, ammunition. But yeah, again, this is another area of our law that I think it sort of means good, but it doesn't actually do anything. So, you know, yeah, there's technically nothing stopping you going out and buying 500 rounds, if your limit is 500, of, you know, factory ammunition, and then going and buying a load of component parts and then making up another 500 in your house. Like, no one's going to know about it. Just don't do it. Like, it's, you know, it's just not worth it. But, you know, there was a time where our what was it? It was, yeah, that was it. I was going to the shooting. I can't remember. I think I ended up going to 2 ranges in a day, and it was like a lot of shooting. And I had a load of 22s. I think it's when I had, let's say, I think I'd taken a load of friends, and I had, you know, I had a fair collection of 22 rifles, and I ended up going through a lot of 22. And I stopped off at the gun shop in the morning and bought like up to my allowance because I didn't have any in the safe. Gone and shot a lot of 22, and I mean, I'm talking like, you know, maybe a couple of thousand rounds, and I went back to the gun shop on the way home and bought like another 2,000 rounds. And he's like, it's like, first of all, I recognize you from this morning, but I've definitely like, it says here, like, you've already been here today. And what he was actually concerned about, he was like, look, I get it, you've been to the round, you've shot a lot of ammunition with your friends, but what he was actually concerned about was like Hampshire going, and they will go through the list, they will look for inconsistencies when you send in your FAC, so, you know, don't think you can fool them. And it was like, my limit was like 3,000 rounds, and he was like, and it shows here 2 purchases in the same day of 2,000 rounds, meaning I would have 4,000 rounds. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can see why that looks bad, but, you know, again, I'll just explain it like I just have. I've been down the range, I was just making sure that I had ammunition in the safe for the next time. And he was like, cool, but, you know, just be careful, they will pick up on things like that. Nice live to watch while reloading 9mm. Keep it up. Greetings from Poland. Well, thanks for joining us, Von. Yeah, I suppose that is a good thing. Put on some YouTube in the background and just sit there and get on with your reloading. Again, it is something I really do want to get into and learn more, because we always end up talking about it, and, you know, I get asked loads of questions and I feel really bad that I can't always answer them. So it'd be good to learn a bit more myself. Yes, Tech Gaming 45, put an alarm on your phone. That's a very good idea. Maybe we should all do that. Maybe everyone watching now, you should put an alarm for 8 o'clock on Thursday in the UK, to give the NHS the big clap. And then, yeah, I'll be doing the stream. It will go off and I'll remember, and I won't look like an idiot. Gabriel, did you have a license/certificate before UK restrictions became so restrictive? How old do you think I am? Yeah, there we go. Asu, you probably wasn't born. So the last round of restrictions, well, it was the handgun, was 97. Well, I was born in 1999. So I would have been 6 at the time that they lost handguns. So, you know, technically old enough to have an FAC. But no, I never experienced semi-automatic rifle, full-bore rifles in the UK, or handguns. So unfortunately, the way it is now is the way that I've always known, known of it being, in terms of being a firearms owner. Obviously, we did lose last May lever releases and the Mars action rifles, that's the only like big change really during the time that I've been shooting. You know, I started sort of on my journey onto an FAC and an SGC when I was 20. I'd done shooting. I'd actually done nothing live prior to going to university, but I'd done plenty of like BB guns and air rifle shooting and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's coming up for 10 years now that I've been running my mouth on online and getting into shooting. But no, never got to experience the freedom side of the UK when stuff was. Oh, handgun ban was 87. Semi-auto ban was 97. There we go. It's not really dates that I like remembering. Like it's sort of that. I just like forgetting that happened. Like so 87 and 97. But there we go. So yeah, we lost handguns before I was born, and lost semi-auto rifles when I was 6. So. Marco, what's your favourite handgun caliber to shoot? Mine was the 1911 45 ACP, then the 9mm. I think it's 9mm, not to be like completely vanilla and boring, just the choice, and also being into practical and IPSC, like 9mm is the caliber, it's what everyone uses. So I mean, would I pass down shooting a 9mm over a Smith & Wesson 500? Absolutely. Like Smith & Wesson 500 is an awesome gun to shoot, but like if I could only have one gun, if I could only have one handgun, it would be a 9mm. Absolutely, like no shadow. Wouldn't even need to think about it. What gun it would be, I mean, if I wasn't so into like IPSC and practical, it would probably be a Beretta 92 FS. Having said that, if the UK turned around tomorrow, if the government turned around tomorrow and said, everyone can, now own at least, well, just one handgun, it'd probably be a Walther PPQ, a Q5 match steel frame, because it's the gun that I would end up using for competition. But that you can dream, right? Jay Waring, is the NRA shotgun the same as the UK PSA/IPSC? Cheers from New Brunswick, Canada. I don't mean to laugh, particularly laugh. It's not. It's really not. My mum's berating me because I was born in 1991. I thought I said 90. Did I say 1981? I don't know. It's getting late, guys. It's been a hot day. I'm fried. Anyway, yeah. Just to clarify, I was born in 1991. Of course, my mum would know better than anyone. Anyway, moving away from that swiftly. Yeah, the reason I laugh at that, Jay Waring, is talking about the UK NRA and UK PSA and IPSC. It's very, very, very political, and it's sort of one of, I don't shy away from a difficult conversation, but that it's like. It's very hard to talk about that topic without in some way like picking a side, but basically the long or the short of it is yeah, NRA shotgun or NRA practical shooting done by the UK NRA is very similar to UK PSA or IPSC shooting. A lot of shooters do both. Some will only do one or the other, but sort of what it stems from is the NRA actually tried to take the IPSC franchise away from the UK PSA, so they've got a little bit of bad blood, but from talking to council members, things are healing. It's much better as a sport if we're together on it rather than picking sides all the time. But yeah, they are very similar. Obviously UK PSA follows IPSC rules to a T in their matches. The NRA do have some differences in what they do and what they allow. So they're great. Both run great leagues and great competitions. I will stick my foot in it and say that the higher. Yeah, fuck it. The higher caliber shooters shoot IPSC. Like I think from being around the NRA long enough and being around the UK PSA long enough, you know, the best that the UK has to offer shoots IPSC, mainly because, you know, the UK PSA and IPSC, it's an internationally recognised, you know, discipline, and if you want to dream and go and be a world champion in practical shooting, you have to go down the IPSC route. So it's sort of natural that the top shooters end up shooting IPSC because they want to go abroad, they want to represent Great Britain on a international scale, whereas the NRA is purely a national league. It doesn't lead to anything international. And again, you know, the only sort of internationally recognised practical shooting is IPSC, and you need UK PSA sign-off to be able to do it. So, you know, I won't get into which is better, because I'm sure there are many people that enjoy the NRA league far more than IPSC and vice versa, but the calibre of shooter is definitely higher at IPSC matches. I'm sure there'll be many of people that disagree with me. That's just my opinion. With the recent, so rolling Dodo, I could really say something different there. With the recent Mars/lever release, does that apply to Marlins and Henry rifles? As no. So what you're talking about is basically, does the lever release banning cover under levers? No, it's a completely different mechanism. That the under levers are, so I know it's lever release and under lever, but they are classified completely differently. So. Daniel Swear, hi Dan, I forgot to say hi. I did invite you earlier, and then I've completely ignored you, but much love, good to see you, Mr. Crap Magnet. Which US based YouTube channel would you like to make a video with? The only choice is Grantham. So I'm gonna shock you here, Daniel. I haven't actually I probably watched like a handful of Grantham's videos. I spend too much time making videos, and you guys are probably sat there going, well, you only sort of upload 2 videos a week, like how much time does it take? But you know, I've got to keep Gunroom TV fed with videos as well, so I don't, and also, like, you know, people watch YouTube to sort of switch off and sort of forget about work, so I tend to watch a lot of car YouTube channels anyway. It would have to be Demolition Ranch, because he gets up to some crazy stuff. If I could go and make a video with any American YouTuber, it'd probably be Demolition Ranch, because it would be one hell of an experience. But you know, I know the Church of Grantham. I know the daddy. You know, I prefer. I don't know. I just watched other channels for a lot longer. The channel that I watched sort of continuously for the longest period and like regularly was actually Iraq Veteran 8888, but that was back when Barry was still about. You know, the what's it, Eric. It always felt to me like, whilst they still grew to a huge channel, like, I'm not knocking the guy you know, for what he's done, but I always felt like they complemented each other perfectly, and it was almost like when Barry died or left, I think he left and then died, but when he wasn't in the videos anymore, I could tell for like this, like maybe 6-month, 12-month period, that Eric was like sort of trying to refill like the sort of structure of the video, and it was like he tried continuing things that he would do with Barry, but it didn't really work because Barry wasn't there. But you know, they've now, you know, it's grown into an absolutely amazing channel, hugely successful, and they've sort of, you know, they found their groove again after Barry left. So you know, unfortunately during that period I stopped watching, and I watched the occasional videos from them, and you know, of course I watch Hitchcock 45. It would be great to go to the range there and shoot with Hitchcock. I mean, I believe he is still the largest gun YouTube channel, or maybe Demolition Ranch has overtaken him. I don't know. Might have to go and check that. Will the underlever AR-15 ever make an appearance? I'm waiting for the same. Well, I'm asking the same questions basically. Sorry, I keep like going to answer a question and then reading another one, and as you see, I can't multitask. I hope so. I mean, there's no reason that so it's the Southern Gun Company underlever AR-15. I saw that back, God, I think it was even like Phoenix last year. It's well over a year ago that the first physical one was going, you know, sort of doing the rounds. And yeah, I think I discussed it last week or the week before. I've seen nothing since. And Carl Volt, you're very, very right. I thought it was 97 that we lost handguns, because of course there was the Handgun World Shoot in Bisley in 96, which, if you want to sort of see how far practical shooting has come, there's actually a YouTube video. If you type in like Handgun World Shoot Bisley, like 1996 or 96, there's like this fairly long video covering you know, various shooters, various stages, and the funniest thing about it are the red dots. They're not even like red dots, they're like red scopes. Go and watch it if you fancy a bit of a giggle, and it shows you how, you know, sort of technologically advanced things have become in our sport since then. I said 1999, did I? Oh god. As I said, it's late and there's not enough caffeine in these, so I should have had a Monster. Anyway, yeah, just to clarify that then, so it looks like the general consensus, we lost semi-automatic rifles in 87. I was born in 1991, and handguns were lost in 97. I think I've just messed that up again. Centerfire 87, handguns 97. There we go. I think that was right. It's been a long day. Hi Tom, nice of you to join us. A little bit late, mate. You haven't missed much, just me rambling on as usual and making a fool of myself. Although, if Neil's still here, I still don't think it's as bad as Neil. Not too much. Callum is streaming and it's a chill night. He did forget to clap. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, I should have clapped the NHS. I will put an alarm in my phone. He's no more Mark Wahlberg. Don't know what you mean by that. Paul from the World Gun Owners Association. Grand Thumb is a knob. I mean, I don't know. Like, if you don't know who Grand Thumb is and you just go and watch one video, like, it's very hard to decide whether it's satire or he's being like genuine. I guess that's sort of what you mean about him being a knob. Maybe something else. Surely FPS Russia was better than Demolition Ranch. Well, you can't go and shoot with FPS Russia anymore. And guys, if you I posted it on English Shooting. If you want to know what happened to FPS Russia, go and search on YouTube now, because he's out of prison. Like, crazy the stories he has about what happened, and you know, the ATF and all that. I think the FBI got involved. Absolutely mental. But yeah, of course the channel's still up there, but there's been no new videos for years. So I would say the number one active YouTube you know, gun YouTuber that I would like to go and shoot would be Demolition Ranch. But Carl, if you happen to be watching, I think it's Carl, isn't it, from FPS, or maybe it's just because it was Carl that said it. But anyway, I think the guy from FPS is called Carl. Anyway, the guy from FPS, if you're watching by some slim chance, like, hit me up. We'll happily hook you up in England. That's a shame. Yeah, you guys. So as far as I understand, the what happened with FPS Russia, like, I think his business partner got shot. They like tried to pin him for it, and during the investigation they found, let's just say, not a substantial amount of weed, and he was in a state which it was not legal, and he ended up getting a fentanyl. Oh, I'm gonna have to go to bed soon. I'm not even going to try. I've just lost all will to live, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not worthy. I can't even think about how to say it. He got a level of prosecution in America that will forbid him from ever owning a firearm again. So yeah, so that's why the channel got shut down. I mean, really, don't all the best YouTube channels, gun YouTube channels, get shut down from time to time? You know, just saying. So Point Blank Simulator, John Lovell War Poet Society is my favourite YouTube channel. I think I know that one, actually. I think I know that. And yeah, an FPS Russia is Kyle. Felon. It's gonna. You know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. I can't do it. What else? What else did we have to talk about? Oh, I can't believe it's taken this long to get on this. So, did any of you guys happen to see the meme that I made about Hatsan? Like, the majority of people seem to go, like, take that on the chin quite well, like Hatsan owners. But it was, head over to the English Shooting Facebook page if you want to go and see it. But basically it was like COVID-19. One of the symptoms of COVID-19 is a lack of taste. And then it was like Hatsan, you know, people that use Hatsans for practical shotgun. And it was meant to be federal. That's it. It's a oh, I can't say it. No. Loving a bit of TRX arms. Thanks, Tom. It was a federal charge. I'll leave it at that. But you know, you guys know what I mean. But anyway, I made this meme. I thought it was quite funny, like, because, like, in all honesty, like, we know, like, I think everyone knows that a Hatsan isn't particularly good for practical shooting, and people just call me a gun snob. So I actually have a video like coming out, which is about cheap guns and talking a bit about gun snobs. But I wanted to talk about you know, basically gun snobs and cheap guns. And before the video goes out, just to clarify that anyone that still might be a little bit upset from that meme. Look, I don't care how much a gun costs. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you're going out there with a gun that you got for 20 quid off Gun Trader, or you know, you got a gun that's, you know, £100,000 worth. Go out there and start shooting. But you know, when people have cheap guns and they get over defensive like that, I try and, like, it really annoys me, because there's no point like putting lipstick on a pig and, you know, dressing it up, is there? Like, it is what it is. It's a cheap gun, and people say, oh, you're a snob, like, oh, you're just shitting on Hatsans. Well, no, I shoot a Stoker M3000. Like, how is that snobbery? So yeah, I think people just sometimes are a little bit too sensitive when it comes to that. But we all love our guns, you know. It isn't a personal attack when someone says something bad about your guns. And yeah, Roland Dodo, it's not about cost, it's about whether the thing works properly or not. And I'm not saying that you know, a Hatsan can't work properly. I'm just saying that it's sort of fundamentally flawed for practical shotgun. You need to be able to load fast. You cannot load a Hatsan fast. And if you can, you should get an M2, because you'll be a hell of a lot faster. Like that, I just see that's the truth of it. And you know, I had some people saying, oh, a Hatsan is as good as a Benelli M2, or a Hatsan. I think it was the MPB or BP or whatever it is. And they were like, oh, it's as good as a Benelli M2. And I'm like I would never in a million years go out and say that the Stoker M3000 that I use is as good as an M2. And I think the M3000 for practical shotgun is a hell of a better gun than a Hatsan. The main question though, how are the Pepsi stocks looking? Well, you know, here at you know, the English Shooting headquarters and Magload headquarters, we do deem Pepsi as an essential item. So I did have to go to Macro a couple of days ago and stock up on it. It wasn't just Pepsi, I got Monster too. No, we went and stocked up. There was a number of things that I needed for home and for the business as well. So I went there, and while I was there, ended up getting 4 trays of Pepsi, cans of Pepsi. So we're well stocked at the moment. It's probably about a week's worth. But yeah, and Yes, Daniel. Yeah. So I avoided back onto the cheap guns. Like, I completely agree with all of what you guys are saying. Like, as long as it does the job that you need it, like, fair dues. If it's all that you can afford, like, fair dues. Like, I'm never ever going to berate someone for, you know, having a cheap gun. If that's all you can afford, or that's all you want to go and spend on a gun, and it's a cheap gun, like, at least you're shooting. I don't care. Like, I generally don't care what gun you're using, as long as it's got a trigger and you're pointing it in the right direction. But the people that get overly defensive about cheap guns, it's like the 1522. That's a cheap gun. Like, when you compare it to other 2.2 semi-automatics, okay, there are cheaper ones, but you can pick one up for what, like 550 quid sometimes. That's a cheap gun. Doesn't mean it's a bad gun. It's just cheap, and I'm not going to say that the 1522 has the same build quality as let's say a Chris Defiance or a Northwest Custom Parts custom gun. You know, far from it. Or even, and I did see it pop up, Landtac. You know, Landtac do make very high end guns. The customer service just doesn't reflect that. So yeah, like, it's not about why. Like, I guess it's the world we live in. Everyone's focused on how much something costs and what it's worth. It's not about that, you know. Yes, generally, the more you spend on a gun, the nicer it is, but it doesn't mean that a cheap gun can't be good. You know, the Stoeger, whilst the M2 is head and shoulders above a Stoeger M3000 or an M3K for that matter, you know, I can shoot that. If you get someone with a Section 2 Benelli M2 and I use that Section 2 N3000, like, the gun will hold its own. You know, it is more, you know, it's cheap, it's maybe less reliable, you're gonna get more wear on it, it's gonna break after potentially less cartridges through it, but, you know, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad gun. You know, but again, you pay your money, you take your choice, don't you? And exactly, you know, Jennifer, a cheap gun is better than no gun. Absolutely. You know, and I say this all the time. People that are first starting out, they're paranoid, you know, especially practical shooting. You know, go, oh my god, I'm going to need £1,500 for a Benelli M2 SP. And I'm like, why? It's like, well, because otherwise, you know, if I go and get a Stoeger M3000, I'll be laughed at. And I'm like, well, screw anyone that's going to laugh at you for running a M3000, you know, and screw anyone that laughs at people using a Hatsan for practical shooting. You know, if you choose a Hatsan for practical shooting over an M3000, maybe that deserves a little bit of ribbing. But yeah, like, you know, if people are going to berate you for how much you spent on a gun, and again, that the meme that I put out there, it wasn't about how cheap Hatsans were. You know, it would be like me saying, you know, it was an equivalent meme would be like saying, you know, using a Beretta Extrema. You know, why would you go and use a Beretta Extrema? You'd go and get a 1301. Like, it's just not suited for practical shotgun anyway. Peter, you're going to start on the Mossberg 930J and Pro next. Yeah, I've heard loads of people that have had 930JMs, including Mr. Smerald, who's on the stream. You know, and they rave about them. I don't. I just, what really, like, I don't necessarily think it's a bad gun. Certainly not compared to other guns. I just think that the main thing that gets me with the JM is that everyone goes, oh, it's the gun that Jerry Michalak uses. No, it's not. Like, the gun that he uses doesn't even resemble a 930, and I'm sure the 940 that he now has will soon not resemble a 940. You know, and that's, well, maybe if the 940 is better than the 930, Jerry Michalak won't have to completely butcher it to get it to work. But there's just fun. I mean, Connors explains this. I don't know if he's still watching, but Connors has done a number of port jobs on 930s, and he just says that there are things, I guess, similar. I'm not comparing a Mossberg 930 with a Hatsan, but similar to my objection against Hatsans for practical shooting, there are just fundamental flaws with the 930 JM that look, they just should have never have done, or certainly have put more time into. But it's not like, I don't consider the 930 a bad gun. I just think, you know, when you're knocking on the 930s were like 700-800 quid. When you're knocking on that, like, you could go and get a 1301 for around £1,000. You know, you could go and get a second-hand like M2 for under £1,000, or you could go, you know, for 700 quid, you can go and get an M3K, go and have all the port work done to it, and extended, you know, a new tube on it and loads of Gucci bits, and in my mind, a pimped out M3K for the same money as a base 930 was just a better option. But yeah, I don't necessarily I don't necessarily think it's a bad gun. It's just not as good as everything else. Ricardo even, don't upset Connors and slate the Supernova. I genuinely cannot slate the Supernova from seeing. I mean, he's shown you on previous streams in the gun room what the Supernova, like the current Supernova he has, the internals of that thing are ragged, and it still runs. He has a few issues with it, that's why he's got a new one ready and waiting, but he, you know, that thing has just lasted through what, probably hundreds of thousands of rounds, and it's still, you know, for the most part going strong. You know, and actually, again, that's sort of what annoys me about the Hatsands, because you can pick up a used Supernova for like sub 400 quid, and it's like Benelli Supernova, Hatsan. You know, like the Supernova is a renowned practical shooting, you know, pump gun. You know, so yeah, I can't slate it, other than it's a pump and people should shoot semi and stop, you know, exerting more energy than they need to. So Von, as it goes for the amount you spend on a gun, I've seen several times during competitions when a guy is using an regular on modified AKMS destroy people shooting high class ARs. It's a skill thing. Absolutely, that's it. You know, some people that obsess about going and spending like the most they can on their gun, well, it's like track days, like with cars, right, and racing. People go, oh, I want to put a bigger turbo on it, I want to get it tuned, I want to go and, you know, put bigger discs on it, and, you know, brake discs and new suspension, and I'm going to be faster. As a beginner, like, you will gain more time taking tuition than you ever will pimping out your car, and it's exactly the same with shooting. There are far bigger gains available in training and practice and tuition and instruction than there ever is in the equipment. And like I've been saying, like, the M3000 is not, it doesn't struggle against guns that are 3 or 4 times the price of it. You know, it's not as good as, for various reasons, but it doesn't struggle. So if I go out and I struggle with the gun, that's not the gun, that's me. So therefore I need to do more practice. I need to do, oh, Nala's trying to get in. I'm gonna be going soon. Oh, she's fallen off. You know, that's it. Some gun, you know, most guns are sort of a muchness if you know, in terms of how they actually run during a competition or a match. I would just say Hatsan, just don't. But yeah, you're far, as a beginner, don't obsess about going and getting an expensive gun. And moreover, you could go out and buy an M2 and find out that the M2 doesn't shoot your shooting style, and actually a 1301, and then you've gone and spent 1,500 quid, £2,000 on this M2, and then 6 months down the line you might change it. You know, so, you know, when you're learning, when you're completely fresh into a new discipline, not just shooting in general, but into a new discipline, go and get a cheap gun to go and try it out with first. Like, don't worry about going and getting the best of the best, because, like, seriously, like, no one picks up a discipline and is instantly held back by the gun. That's going to take a lot of time and practice. Daniel Smerald, 850 for 1522. I think I said 550, £550. You can get a Smith & Wesson 1522 for £550. And yes, you just wanted to say that you bought a Geisley, didn't you? You just had to slip that in there, didn't you, Daniel? It's there waiting for us in October. Of course, you guys, I'm sure you guys know, the last week we should have been out in Kentucky. That's going to be now over in October. And Daniel has bought a Geisley AR-15 for us to be able to use very kindly. It is going to get pimped to hell with magload gear, so it will sort of become the magload sort of AR-15 223 demo gun. Ricardo, do you know of any AK style 22s in the UK? Yeah, look at that. She's like a ninja. Now she's just gonna sit there, isn't she? Should I let her in? Should I? I'm gonna be kicking her out in a minute. There we go. Spider cat, spider cat. Yeah, I don't know of any that are available sort of to buy as of this minute, Ricardo. There was, somebody did bring out a 22 AK. It was like a 22 version of the Mars rifle, and it was absolutely horrific. So I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know of anything. The best thing to do is to keep an eye out on sort of Gun Trader and Gunstar, and just type in like AK under 22. Put all the settings in and search for AK. But yeah, there's nothing that I know of off the top of my head. And yeah, I guess Carl, you're talking about that as well. We are very limited. Oh, Carl was talking about the Norway price. Okay, you guys have all these like mini conversations, and I struggle to keep up. But yeah, Carl, all of the 22 AKs that I've ever been aware of, you just cannot get them anymore. But yeah, I think that's going to be about it for it tonight, guys. Unless you guys have any last minute burning questions, I think I'm going to have to leave it there. But I'll give it a few minutes to just, if there is anything that you're just dying to ask before I go. But if not, I'll be wrapping it up, because we have hit 2 hours. Like, it's crazy how quickly it can go. I know I've been flummoxing throughout all of it. It's just a long day. I don't have my right hand man, Mr. Connors, to sort of take up the slack. Running it and talking is quite exhausting. But anyway, we got a gun in the gun room at the moment that shows a lot of promise. It's a Tyrannus by High Grand Power. So Otto, who does normally join in on the streams. I don't know if you're there, Otto. Hello if you are. But Otto runs Cotswold Classic Arms, and he's sent down this. It's a 2.2 semi-automatic rifle. It's sort of, the best way to describe it is it's like a submachine gun clone. So it's got a bigger brother, the Strybog, which is a 9mm, and Otto is adamant that the Strybog, the bigger brother 9mm version, is an MP5 killer. Like, it's better. He says it's better than an MP5, that's a hell of a claim. And of course, I know there's a huge fascination in the UK with MP5 2.2 clones. The Tyrannus, although it's not labelled as an MP5 clone and it doesn't resemble an MP5 clone, there should be a video coming out quite soon where we've got the it's the MP5, it's the Umarex HK MP5 SD in the gun room, and we're going to take that out with the Tyrannus and put them sort of side by side. So that will be I think quite an interesting video. Unfortunately, I say straight off the bat, the one thing that the Tyrannus is missing is the HK, the MP5 slap. That's the only thing. So, but first signs are that it's a very good gun. Yeah, nothing is better than MP5. I mean, again, if I can have any gun, it would be a full auto MP5. It's just I've got a soft spot for them. Yes, Mum. Like, you might not think I was up early. I was doing emails in bed. It's like what I want to do. I was in work by. My alarm was set for 8. I was awake at 8. Anyway, less about that. But there we go, guys. So it looks like the questions have dried up, and we've hit the 2-hour mark. Before you all disappear, please, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. I know it might not seem like a lot, but it does really help with the analytics of the channel. And of course, this stream will be available to watch back if you want after the stream has finished. And if you think any of your friends would be interested in watching it, please do share it about. Again, that does always help. Can you get a drum mag for the Chris Defiance quickly? I don't know, like sort of categorically whether you can, but I know that there is the Black Dog. So it's a Black Dog 50 round drum mag. I've got one for the 1522. Actually, yes, you can get a drum mag for the Chris Defiance, because you can get the 1522 magazine adapter for it, so you can use 1522 mags, and then you can go and buy the Black Dog 50 round drum mag and then use it in there. So yes, you can. But yeah, there we go, guys. Last question. I'm going to be going off. It's now time for me to try and find the end stream button and not look so silly. But thank you everyone for joining. I know tonight I just feel absolutely phased, so I hope it was enjoyable. I hope you liked it. Hope it was interesting, and of course it'll be next week, probably 7 o'clock, 7:30. I don't know why I did it 7 today. Let's do it 7:30. That's our usual time. So next week, Thursday, on here, 7:30, the English shooting live stream, our weekly stream. But there we go. Again, a big thank you everyone for joining and asking questions and being part of the stream. Really do appreciate everyone turning up and saying hello. But there we go. Have a great week. Keep safe, keep well, keep indoors, and keep shooting where you can. There we go, guys. As always, I hope to see you soon.